5 people arrived on one of the most remote islands on Earth. A relief ship was supposed to come back for them. It never made it. And then, one by one, the expedition fell apart, until only one person remained to face the Arctic alone. In the summer of 1921, explorer Vilhjalmur Stefansson organized a small party to occupy Wrangel Island, a piece of frozen land sitting in the Chukchi Sea north of Siberia. The plan was straightforward on paper. 5 individuals would land, stay for approximately 2 years, and demonstrate a sustained presence on the island. A relief ship would resupply them before conditions closed the sea route. Stefansson did not load the party with more than roughly 6 months of supplies. His expectation was that the island would provide. That game would be plentiful enough to close the gap between what they carried and what they needed. The expedition departed on September 9, 1921. The 4 men were Alan Crawford, the 20-year-old leader, Milton Gala, Fred Moore, and Lorne Knight. The 5th member was Ada Blackjack, born Ada Blackjack in 1898, an Iñupiaq woman hired in Nome, Alaska. She was the only Alaska Native person on the expedition, and the only woman after other Native families withdrew from the plan before departure. She also brought a cat named Victoria. Ada had a specific and concrete reason for taking the work. She needed money to support her son Bennett and hoped to earn enough to reunite with him. That goal, documented in the historical record, was the reason she said yes to an expedition that most people in Nome declined. The first full year passed without a relief ship. The sea ice closed the route before any resupply vessel could reach Wrangel Island in 1922. The game Stefansson had counted on proved far less available than anticipated. Supplies dwindled, ammunition was consumed. The gap between what the expedition had brought and what the island provided did not close. It widened. By late 1922, the party was contending with inadequate food, diminishing materials, and no confirmed timeline for outside contact. By the end of 1922, Lorne Knight had developed scurvy. The disease progresses through weakness, joint pain, and eventually an inability to function. Knight became incapacitated. With Knight unable to travel and the relief ship having failed to arrive, the 3 healthiest men, Crawford, Maurer, and Gale, made a decision. On January 28, 1923, they left camp with their remaining sled dogs and set out across the frozen Chukchi Sea toward Siberia, roughly 90 miles distant, intending to reach the mainland and bring back help. They were never seen again. That left Ada Blackjack alone on Wrangel Island with an incapacitated man, a dwindling set of resources, and no clear timeline for rescue. The sea ice that had blocked the relief ship also blocked any other approach. There was no radio, no way to signal, no certainty that anyone on the outside knew the full severity of what was unfolding on the island. The isolation was total. The 3 men who had left were the most capable travelers in the group, and they had taken the sled dogs with them. What remained was Ada, Knight, whatever supplies had not yet been exhausted, and the Arctic winter. Ada had not arrived on Wrangel Island as an experienced Arctic hunter. The skills she would need to keep Knight alive, and to keep herself alive, were not skills she already possessed in full. What the record shows is that she learned them. She learned to shoot. She began hunting and trapping. She collected birds and eggs. She trapped foxes. She sewed warm clothing appropriate to the conditions. She began constructing skin boats, an effort directed toward eventually hunting seals. She cared for Knight through the progression of his illness, managing the camp, while also showing symptoms of scurvy herself. The conditions she was working under were not the conditions of someone building toward a clear outcome. They were the conditions of someone managing immediate necessity with shrinking options. Knight died on June 23, 1923. Ada was now entirely alone on the island. After his death, she placed a barricade around his body to protect it. Then she made a deliberate series of changes to her situation. She moved from the main camp to the storage tent. She reinforced that tent with driftwood. She built a sleeping platform inside it and constructed an improvised stove. She also built an observation deck, a structure that would allow her to watch for any approaching vessel. These were not passive acts of waiting. Each one represented a physical effort under conditions of isolation, illness risk, an uncertain time horizon. She continued to hunt birds, trap animals, and work on her skin boats. The supply situation remained constrained. The window of navigable water around Wrangel Island is short. Whether a ship could reach her before that window closed again was not something Ada could control or calculate. What she could control was whether the camp was functional, whether she was eating, and whether she was positioned to be seen if a ship did approach. She managed all three. On August 20th, 1923, a rescue ship reached Wrangel Island. Ada Blackjack was found alive. She was 25 years old. She was the only human survivor of the expedition that had landed 2 years before. Crawford, Maurer, and Gala had vanished on the sea ice. Knight had died from scurvy months earlier. Victoria the cat also survived. The rescue closed a period of isolation that had stretched far beyond anything the expedition's organizers had planned for or adequately prepared against. The aftermath was complicated. Ada returned to public life, but the attention she received was not accompanied by fair treatment. According to the record, she did not receive the pay she had been promised, and royalties that had been discussed did not materialize. The people who organized the expedition and who stood to benefit from the story of its survival did not ensure that Ada was adequately compensated for what she had endured. The Dartmouth archival record notes the isolation and mistreatment she experienced. Her papers, including her diary and a statement she gave in February 1924, are preserved in the collection there. The diary is a primary document of what the 2 years actually looked like from inside the camp. Ada Blackjack lived until 1983. She was eventually recognized more fully for what she had done, though that recognition came slowly and unevenly over the decades following her rescue. The gap between what the expedition's organizers received in terms of public attention and what Ada received in terms of compensation and acknowledgement is itself part of the documented record. What this case demonstrates in concrete terms is the distance between the plan Stefansson built and the conditions the expedition actually encountered. The assumption that 6 months of supplies would be adequate because game would fill the difference was not borne out. The relief ship that was supposed to arrive before the sea ice closed did not arrive. The 3 men who walked toward Siberia to find help did not return. Each of these outcomes foreclosed options for the people left on the island. None of them were outcomes Ada caused. All of them became conditions she had to survive. What Ada Blackjack did in the space that remained, learning skills she did not have, maintaining a camp under illness and isolation, adapting her shelter, continuing to hunt and prepare, is documented in her diary and in the historical record. It is not the story of a person who arrived prepared for solo Arctic survival. It is the story of a person who was placed in an untenable situation by decisions others made, who acquired the capabilities the situation demanded, and who remained alive long enough for rescue to reach her. The organizational failures of the 1921 expedition are part of this record too. And Ada's son Bennett, the reason she took the job in the first place, was waiting. That documented fact sits at the center of everything she did on that island. When the ship arrived on August 20th, 1923, it was that goal, still intact after 2 years, that she had been working toward the entire time.